Hello everyone. I'm pretty disappointed. I believed in this YieldMax promise of high returns, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% returns, even over 100% on some cases. However, now I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional or anything. I'm a pensioner. And I was looking at how to invest, and I seen some representatives from YieldMax on YouTube saying 100% return of capital, deferred taxation, all that, which turned out to be untrue. So is YieldMax legitimate? Is it a Ponzi scheme? Is it a pyramid? What is it? I've combed through thousands of pages of tax information that they provide on their website. I've read through over 50 prospectuses. And, for me, I've tried to find how they distribute, I don't know whether to call it a combination of return of capital and yield, but they're distributions. And I can't find it. Normally it says, because there's two ways to make distributions for any entity. They can issue new shares, right? Or they can send out a cash distribution. And it can be a combination of all return of capital, all yield, or anything in between. And I can't find that on the website. If you know where it is, please let me know, because I've tried to find it. Now, there's a difference between investing when you're young and when you're in retirement, when you're in your 60s, right? Consistency is incredibly important for the young and for the older people. Because when you're young and you're planning for your future, you got to kind of have a good idea of what's going to be there when you get there. And when you've arrived, when you're over 60, you got to know what you're going to have every month to live on. On YieldMax's website, it shows the distributions. So for example, for August 6th, CHPY, CHPY, the YieldMax Semiconductor Portfolio Option Income ETF, lists that 84.18% of their distribution is return of capital. Go ahead a week to the next distribution that they have listed, which is August 13th, 2025. CHPY has, CHPY has 20.03% return of capital. GBTY, right, on August 6th has 57.7 return of capital. And on August 13th, it has 98.22% return of capital. LFGY on the 6th of August had 53.86% return of capital. Go ahead a week, it's now 54.02% capital. And GDTY, YieldMax NASDAQ 100 0 DTE covered call ETF, had 0% of capital. Go ahead a week. And now GDTY has 100% return of capital. They're all over the place, from 0 to 100. Now, why it's important? It doesn't, in my registered retirement plan, it doesn't mean anything because there's a tax treaty between the United States and Canada, which it doesn't get taxed. It's in my brokerage account, my non-registered brokerage account, and on my TFSA, tax-free savings account. Because the tax treaty does not include tax-free savings accounts. Even though it's a registered account, it doesn't include. So when I heard on YouTube this 100% return of capital deferred taxes into the future, and it doesn't come in as income, I thought, great. This is fantastic. This is out of control. I can make money, and there are many ways to defer taxation, even beyond the period of time. When your cost of capital hits 0, you automatically have to start paying taxes. But there's ways around that to keep you in the threshold of not being taxed. When that didn't turn out, when the transfer agent for YieldMax, which is US Bancorp, was taxing me at 100% yield, when the distribution said 100% return of capital, I contacted my brokerage. We went through it together. They agreed and wrote up a ticket. We sent an inquiry to US Bancorp. That's still working on that. I decided to buy all 52 of the 53 ETFs that were available at that time. Because YieldMax, like tic-tacs. Boom, 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 another one. Which led me to believe, are they legit? Is this a pyramid? Is it a Ponzi scheme? Is it a pyramid scheme? What's going on here? There's no consistency. They're issuing shares like there's no tomorrow. And when you issue shares, right? How are you issuing shares? Because every company has to put it in their financial forms, how they're issuing shares. Every company does it, right? Now, if you're a corporation and or a fund, and you issue shares and sell them on the open market, it doesn't affect anything. Because the shares going out brings money in, increase the strength of the corporation or the fund. However, when you do your distributions, if you issue shares, like what I've noticed, YieldMax, whenever I've seen them on YouTube, or anyone who's, not everyone, but many people have talked about dripping your distributions or dividend reinvestment plan. That is a little bit scammy to me. That makes me wonder, why? Because it's dilutive. It affects the NAV in a very negative way, right? The net assets under management, when there's new issues being issued to pay distributions, is dilutive. And the NAV drops because you have a certain amount of value, right? The net assets under management, right? And then you have a share count. So if this is, let's say the assets under management is $1 and you have one share, that share is worth $1. But if you issue another share, then that share is worth 50 cents. So there's a 50% reduction, right? You're not selling it, you're distributing it. right? So worth $1, you have one share that's worth $1, you have two shares that's worth 50 cents. The shares get diluted. And there's an effect on the NAV, on the net asset value, right? Assets under management stay the same, but the net asset value drops. It gets diluted with the infinite amount of shares that these people can distribute. So who controls that? It's the transfer agent, U.S. Bancorp. The distributions to all and the taxation to all the shareholders, because they are the transfer agent for YieldMax. Now, YieldMax sends the orders to their transfer agent to distribute to the shareholders, right? So ultimately, it falls back on YieldMax. What I see there, let me put it like this. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a pensioner with gut instincts. My guts are telling me, and this is my opinion, I'm not a financial advisor, that the legitimate Ponzi pyramid, the chances of this being a legitimate organization is less than 10%, in my opinion, because of the lack of information on their website that I can find. Maybe you can find it. Let me know. The way they issue shares, the insane amount of shares that they issue, the way they distribute, and the miscommunication between them, apparently, between them and their transfer agent. And then nowhere to find, that I could find, how the distribution is generated. Is it 100% new issuance of shares? Is it 100% cash? Is it a combination of issuance of shares and cash? And their overriding desire to pump into your head to drip your distributions. To dividend reinvestment programs, depending on how they're organized by the corporation or the fund, are a win for that corporation or that fund. They get extra capital, right? Because they don't have to give you anything. They just got to give you a share. And how that share is created, right, is dilutive. No matter how you slice it. If you have one share and you issue a share, now you have two, and the value of the two is half of the value of the one. I'll give you the inconsistencies. I like companies that are consistent in their distributions. It helps me plan. It helps you, young person who has 30, 40 years till retirement, right? Maybe 50. How are you going to plan if you don't know what the plan is for the future? So I went on their website and they have the August 6th and the latest one, which is August 13th distributions. So CHPY, CHPY, YieldMax Semiconductor Portfolio Options Income ETF, which pays weekly, has a return of capital of 84.18%. The next week, August 13th, CHPY, CHPY, has a return of capital of 20%, 20.03%. That's over a 60% fluctuation. GPTY, YieldMax AI and Tech Portfolio Options Income ETF. On August 6th, its return of capital was 57.7. On August 13th, it was 98.22% return of capital. It's crazy. I'll give you an example, which is the extreme, right? On August 6th, GDTY, YieldMax NASDAQ 100 0 DTE covered call ETF, was 0% return of capital. 1 week later, GDTY was 100% return of capital. How are you being taxed? In 1 week, right, on August 6th, it's 0% return of capital, you pay your taxes. The next week, August 13th, it's 100% return of capital, which is not a yield, so you shouldn't be taxed. It's 100% swing in a week. And you want to try to plan for 40 years into the future? I got to plan what I'm going to get this month and then segregate a certain amount for taxation, and be aware that if you go over a certain amount, it's going to affect your pension. In my opinion, this is like a forest fire. It's like I mean, if you want to bamboozle me, right? Don't get upset if I figure out the bamboozlement. My opinion only, a pensioner, nobody important. Maybe 10% legit. 90% Ponzi pyramid scams. It's a Wild West show. There's no communication between YieldMax and their transfer agent, which is US Bank Corp, on how the distributions are handled, because it's very simple. YieldMax puts out a list of their funds and how much is return of capital. Send that list to the transfer agent. Transfer agent, like for example, QDTY, which is 100% for August 13th, it should say no taxes to be removed, 100% ROC. The week before that, when it was 0% ROC, then all taxes applied. It's computers and AI. They do, like, I mean, you just enter the information. And then on their tax form, it is a hodgepodge. It's a mess. It's a mess. I'm not an accountant, but it should be easier to find information. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I bought all 52 funds. And I'm probably going to sell 50 of the 52 funds. There's 2 that I found that they haven't messed around with too much, that are somewhat consistent. And I might keep those. But, oh my gosh. You have to be like a fortune teller, a witch doctor, a soothsayer, a diviner, right? Sometimes things get lost in the flow of information. If there's just the right information, things are easy. But when there's an overflow, too little or too much is sketchy. Just right. Yeah, same thing with Goldilocks. Right? There's a Goldilocks scenario to the information that you have. There's a Goldilocks scenario to distribution. And I can't find, in this storybook, I cannot find a happy ending for anyone. Look at Alti. Oh my gosh. If you knew how much money I pumped into Alti while I was researching, and things, they were looking good. And then I realized, ooh, hang on a second. Because I still have Alti in all three, my registered retirement savings plan, my TFSA, and my non-registered brokerage account. But it's such a small amount compared to what I had before. I mean, ridiculously small amount. Only so I can see the distributions and how it's being taxed. And then I can call my broker and my brokerage and complain. I'm old. That's what we like to do. Old people like to complain. But for me, this is a no touch, no go. You decide for yourself. Like I said, I'm not a financial planner. I'm just an old pensioner living on an island, off an island. And we have a hurricane coming, so I'll try to get this uploaded. Yeah. It's such a shame though, eh? Like 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 150% return on capital, return of capital, or yield, whatever the combination is, was so exciting. I mean, the thoughts that were running through my head, and probably yours too, especially if you're young. Like when I was young, man, whew, the things I did and tried, because I want to be the richest man in the world. But not the richest man in the world so I could be the most powerful, the most famous. I wanted to help people, that I could have enough money that I did it. I don't know why it popped in my head. Like I said, my wheels. But if properly done, it costs about just less than $1 trillion to feed the world. To every person in the world, to feed them for 1 year costs less than $1 trillion. But let's say $1 trillion. We're gonna throw some desserts in there with the food, because I'm just talking about basic food for survival, right? I would have loved to make enough money to feed the world, at least for 1 year, right? And live a happy life and give everybody a break. Well, I never made that kind of money. And I'm not going to make that kind of money with YieldMax. No matter, even if you two, I love these projections, right? Just so you know, if you take $1 and you double it in 27 doublings, you got $1 million. So how many people did that with Alti, where they were between 80 and 120%, right? So they had to take 80%. And they took $10,000, and what if you kept the drip on? And I think somebody did it, and in 20 years they would have $250 trillion or quadrillion dollars, or just something ridiculous, right? Who's going to have that? Who's going to be able to pay that? The amount of money in the entire world, M1, M2, M3, all the money supply is about 550 to 600 quadrillion So if you put $100,000 today in Alti and it stays paying what for the next 40 years, you'll have more money than there ever existed on the planet. Something wrong with that. That doesn't happen. I think, I'm not sure, but I got a wake-up call when I saw my first distribution gets taxed on 100% return of capital. That upset me. And I contacted my brokerage. It's taking like a month. And I bought all 52, and the weeklies it's kind of like this, right? So you got the weeklies, which I bought last week, all of the weeklies, and you get your distribution. But YieldMax is a week behind in their updates, so you got to wait 2 weeks to find out what your distribution for the week that you qualify for has given out. Now, yeah, it'll tell you 10 cents or 10.003 or 1.003 or whatever the case may be, which I don't think it'll be 10 cents this week, right? But on their website, they break it down, and that it lags by a week. So I would say I'm probably going to be in 50 of the 53, because there's a total of 53. One I can't get, but the other 52 I can, for another week. And then goodbye Jack the week after, once I see what this breakdown is, and hassle my brokerage with I don't know how many tickets we're going to write up, because everything's all over the place. I just gave you examples from Chippy and GPTY, right? And QDTY. And I mean, figure it out for yourself. Do your due diligence. Talk to your financial planner. However, I don't see this thing making it. I mean, I'm in my 60s. I hope to live till my 90s. Even if I just make it to 99 years, one day shy of 100, hey, sign me up for that. I'm good. As long as I'm healthy. Like, I'm crippled. And I'm mental. Had a stroke about 10 years ago, and all my wires are messed up. So, to make it to 99, I need reasonably and be confident that I'll have enough so that I don't live under a bridge diving in a dumpster. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that I don't want to do it. I'm messed up. If I dive in a dumpster, I'm not getting out without air rescue. I'm gonna have to call air rescue to get me out of a dumpster because I'm disabled. So be careful. Have a good look. If anyone can find the distribution or issuance of new shares on the YieldMax website or anywhere, please let me know. I wish you guys all the best. Have a good day.